Creative Podcast. My name is Fitz, and this amigo.
What is my name? My name is Sean, everybody. Welcome to a good podcast about creativity, and we're in person.
Yeah, so actually you're back in town, and for all who don't know, Sean is actually a web designer, and what am I?
What are you?
Yeah, how would you describe me? And so let's go a little bit into what we do and where we at in our journey.
Yeah, well, okay, so yeah, we'll describe each other. So this will be great for everyone. We'll see how good we are at marketing to each other. So, Fitz here is a videographer that really focuses on being a solution for people's communications to the world around them as a whole. So I think that's what he does with video.
That's a lot of buzzwords. I love it, though. I love it. So now it's actually my turn. So Sean is a web and brand designer who's making amazing websites and obviously focuses on the message and the branding of the said thing, you know? And it's currently storming outside, so...
Yeah, so if you hear anything, we're just in the middle of a nice Florida hurricane, just came down here. I am really happy. There's a hurricane. They're never really named after me, but there's one that's literally named Sean that just popped up. So I did want to tell everyone out there, I'm really excited about this. SEAN. It's going to really help my branding.
Yeah. So that should be actually some free SEO work right there, where it's like, oh yeah, Sean's getting some attention now because yeah, you got a whole hurricane coming up there.
Yeah. Now, it will be bad if it decimates all of Tampa and St. Pete, because I feel like I'll still have to do some cool marketing, though, if it just destroys the city. It'll be like, I'll be like, yeah, Sean destroyed the city, so use Sean to help rebuild your business.
I mean, on that note, Sean is back in town, and the other Sean is about to come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A hurricane followed by a hurricane.
Yeah.
But I'm back, man. It feels good to be back with you. Today we're going to just kind of talk about some of the news of the day. We're going to talk a little bit about the AI stuff, some metaverse stuff. First, I think we'll lightly touch, I think for everyone out there that is touched by this kind of Israel-Hamas kind of invasion, our hearts go out to you. I think we talked about if we were going to talk about it on this podcast, and, I think we've decided, there's so much to be said, but it's so early that I think we'll probably kind of leave it how it is. But I definitely wanted to just recognize that anyone that's touched by that, it's terrible. It's a terrible thing that we even have to deal with this.
Yeah, with that being said, this is it's a very complex situation for everybody. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody has opinions. Some people don't want to give opinion because it's a very complex situation. But in the end, we all can agree, all the war and the bloodshed is like a no-no. But it's like, when extremists fight, it's like there's some suffering involved and there's no winners, only losers.
It's really sad. Just that this stuff can even happen, I guess. I think I grew up as a kid thinking, you hear all this stuff in history classes and you're like, no, that stuff's behind us. And it sucks when you hear about this stuff happening nowadays, in current times. So for anyone out there, I my heart's for you if you are affected by it. I think for all of us, I think we're all at least a little negatively affected just by hearing it. But I just want to mention that it is something that's going on, But yeah, so to kind of move on,
topic change
into more fun things. We're not gonna do a whole podcast on it. Sorry, everybody. So I don't know if you want to pull up something, but we're going to just kind of get into it. So
did you send it to me?
I did, yeah.
Oh, on what did you send it? Facebook?
Yeah, on Facebook. But
give me a moment and I will do. So
all right. Well, anyway, for everyone out there, thank you for following the podcast. I do want to do kind of some news that we've been working on stuff. Definitely trying to get more episodes out to you. We've kind of slowed down a little bit, we've realized, but I do just want to say thank you to everybody listening on Spotify. We've seen the numbers kind of jump up on there. On YouTube, it's kind of stayed fairly where it has been, but for any of you guys out there and all the new followers, we've had some new followers, so thank you as well. And let's just get into it, man.
Yeah, so with that being said, we're going to talk about Mark Zuckerberg's podcast with, who was the other guy again?
Lex Friedman, yeah.
Lex Friedman, yeah, big guy. His podcast, absolute banger. He's always getting, the best guests, basically, it's cutting edge. He talks about the AI thing. And obviously, Mark Zuckerberg, usually not the most commonly liked person on the internet. Sorry for that. I have the audio on. We don't need the audio.
It's okay, guys. We're back in studio together. So this first one's always a little weird when we're back together in the studio.
Yeah. With that being said, we talked about like so I already watched it. So this is like here. This is what we're currently seeing here. And yeah, as you can see, it looks like just Mark Zuckerberg, doing his thing, nothing special. But if you look a little bit closer, you kind of see this is not really Mark Zuckerberg, They had a whole podcast basically like, with this AI model of the person,
Yeah. It's crazy how intensive, realistic it is. Even at the very beginning, Lex Friedman's kind of just doing a lot of this, like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, I can see the pores in your skin. I can see, but yeah, very interesting. That you can see that it's already this intense. That's already this kind of detailed.
Yeah. With that being said, like I kind of messed with like some 3D scanning, photogrammetry, and whatever. So I scanned some products and stuff, made some videos and tutorials on YouTube. So check it out. But with that being said, like that is really cool technology. What I think is like the most interesting though is like, okay, you choose to film the real deal, like the complete. This is Sean, this is Fitz, and you see them how they are, but you still wear the weird glasses. But if you're on the internet, you can be anybody that you want, and that kind of takes away from it. And what are your thoughts about avatars?
Well, I think that it's an inevitable that we already have avatars. If you really think about when you post stuff online on your social media, you're creating an avatar. It's essentially, we've all known people that are different in real life than how they are on the internet because they've all created an avatar for himself. So words like self-branding, even being an influencer, those are all kind of these avatars, right? A lot of those influencers, when you see them without makeup, are behind the camera. They are nothing like they are on that. So they've already created this avatar. So it's only a logical step for me. I've always, when I was a kid and I watched The Matrix and Matrix Reloaded and all that, I remember thinking like, this is definitely going to happen, where there's going to be a place where like Sean's going to be a lot cooler in the digital world than he is in the real world type of thing.
Yeah. With that being said, like having like The Matrix, it's like such an old movie, and it's becoming realer and realer with each day. If you think about it, we have the other news that we wanted to talk about is like it's also a little bit cutting edge because like there are in China like AI influencers that are not real, and you wouldn't tell because like everybody's already using the face filters, and it's like, okay, I have no pimples, I have the perfect body because, everything gets like proportionally bigger and like thinner and wider. And it's just like, okay, what's going on here? You don't look like that in real life. And now it's like nearly indistinguishable from real humans. And it's actually just an AI model. So cover me for a quick second while
yeah, no worries. Click a link. But it's very interesting, and one thing I also want to bring up that's really been on the news that's very related to that is Mr. Beast on all the thumbnails everywhere. How everybody is really just kind of trying to utilize fame, and they're able to just kind of convert it to their own mission now. So I could have like, Bruce Willis saying, use Sean Craig Creative and things like that. It's really, we're in that weird part now where people are, this reminds me. So when I was in art school, there was this guy that was really good at Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember this the other day, and I remember he would actually, we all thought he was like photoshopping stuff he was doing on the weekends. Like he would say he did all this cool stuff, but they were like, that picture looks a little off. Like he's with this hot girl in this place, but like that doesn't, like the lighting's a little weird. And I remember we all kind of like slowly caught that he was faking it. He was actually like making up stuff and putting it on. But now it's like, back then it was kind of obvious, right? Unless you're like a master Photoshopper, it was actually, it's hard to like fake all of these photos and like, and so he actually ended up like, it's funny, he just kind of stopped posting at some point because I think people just started he started realizing, oh crap, I think people know that I'm faking my life. But now we live in this time where it seems like easier than ever, I could like fake an entire identity. Sean's in Belize and then he's going to go to Scotland and here's me with 3 models on the beach. And, so it just seems like we're in this weird spot where it's so easy to like fake that.
Yeah, with that being said, actually, like there's agencies out there who just managing AI models, and they have an Instagram account and they are making product reviews, they're making product recommendations because they're getting paid for that, and obviously the models look like this. Check this out. It's obviously some of them are like more meant to be like, relatable, and they're not that perfect, but that are just 3D animated people talking about things and they're not real. They don't exist.
Yeah.
And they're just streaming 24/7. If you think about streaming as a career, that is a career for some people right now. And same with modeling or videography. That's a whole industry where you're meant to film a pretty person or a person of interest and just make them look good so that they can make money with like recommending certain things or selling products or doing their own thing. But now you don't even need the real human being anymore, and it's just like you don't even need actually a camera. You just pull up like a background, you animate that AI character, and people will be baffled because like you cannot really see like what is fake with them, because like obviously they have makeup on, obviously they have like a little face filter. But if you really zoom in, the quality is really there.
Yeah, it's strange. I think what we're going to see is the erosion of the value in people talking. I think right now, if you were to like say, in all the algorithms, what's going to boost you? It's people's faces. It's talking. Like on Instagram, they're going to boost your posts. So they see more human faces. They see more interaction. And I think it's because it's up to now. It's been hard to fake that interaction. It's been hard to fake a person talking into a camera for 24/7, for example. Where now it's totally possible. So I think we're going to see this erosion of that value a little bit where like people are going to be like, well, yeah, but is it real? If Fitzy's talking on this thing, is that really that valuable now versus just...
Or entertaining.
Yeah, so it's like, but what's really creepy about it though, and I don't know this, I'm guessing just knowing China that I'm sure these people didn't give permission. Like these influencers that they're now just being used, they probably didn't give any permission for their stuff to be used.
Yeah, with that being said though, you don't really need permission if there's an AI character that looks better than a regular person. You can make the perfect person, sprinkle like little imperfections on there to sell it better. Because if you go on Instagram, I followed like 2-3 models like that just because I want to see what's actually going on, what are the results of like running like a page like that, and I'm just like,
oh, like a fully AI model page.
Yeah, so there's several out there already, so I just like I could pull it up if I search a little bit, but that will take too long. But they are out there. We put some links down below.
You hear all this stuff in history classes and you're like, no, that stuff's behind us, and it sucks when you hear about this stuff happening nowadays, like
and they're background of a common place, like let's say Sydney or whatever, and they're with the ice cream, doing whatever, wearing the shirt, and nothing is real. The background is real, and because you see the background, it's familiar, you believe it. But you have to do a background check. Is that person real? Some of them actually disclose now, this is an AI modeling page.
Right.
What is cool, but they get likes, they get engagement, and it's like, do you really care if it's real, if it's really entertaining? It's like kind of like watching SpongeBob. It's not real, but it's funny, so you watch it. If you watch SpongeBob, but
well, yeah, it's. Yeah, and I'll say this is just my hot take that I feel like the value does go down when it's AI generated. For me, at least, when I see something that I know isn't like a person and that just like an AI created it, I'm like less impressed for some reason. Like it could even say better stuff than like a real person would say, and I don't know why, but I just am less impressed. And I feel like people feel that in general, right? Like you see that with the AI art, right? If you ask the average guy on the street, do you think this painting or an AI art that's maybe even better than the painting, which one's the better art? Once they know that one of them's AI and one of them's person, I would say that they'd probably be leaning towards the person. It's just more impressive. It's like, oh, this took effort, where this took almost no effort, human effort at least. And so it has like less value, I feel like.
Yeah, I think like all the value comes from the story and the pain that is involved, like we don't really, watch like robots fighting, like a soccer game, for example, football game. It's like you want to see the pain and suffering, like this team really worked hard, it's not perfect, and it's like that makes it more viable. Or esports, for example, you see like teams competing, and then there's obviously cheaters, what could be a bot, and nobody wants to see bots fighting against each other, who's doing the more perfect score. It's like, no, we want to see humans, but the results are still there if you're like a bot and you decimate like a whole team, Yeah,
100%. It's like when you hear about like AI and this kind of smart technology, it's only interesting when it's versus like a human. Like when they had like, the generative like IBM, like the huge supercomputer, and they had it go against like a chess player. it wouldn't have been interesting if it was like an AI versus AI, but since there was like the world's top chess player versus the AI, then it was interesting. And so I think it's like there always has to be that kind of that human component, because yeah, I find myself just getting bored if things are perfect. If it's just perfection versus perfection versus perfection, so like, so we had our guest on a few back now, where Andy Sack, where he's talking about this AI competition, this AI art competition. It's very weird. Like, as I get their emails and I see this, I'd like to really like assess, like, how do I feel about this, right? Like, because it's obviously it's a lot of perfect pieces of things, right? Like, everything is so good, so top notch, but I keep finding myself just not being impressed. Like, I'm kind of like, okay, like, it looks perfect, it looks great, but like, I don't know. It just feels like there's a border there. Like, you haven't gone past that. It always just gets perfect and perfect, but it doesn't get more interesting to me.
Yeah. But with that being said, like, obviously there's like a skill and an art to it, because you kind of have to write the prompt, and you, as a person, you're submitting it. So you basically are being the selector,
Yeah.
And I think that is like the biggest piece where like AI artists are having like, a say or like a little bit of an influence on like how much effort they put into the selection, because you could curate like the perfect style, and you're like being very particular about like, this is not really fitting the tones, it's a cool art piece, but you become very selective and just like make a collection of like a specific style.
Well, right. So one thing that that this really made me think of is in the turn of the century, in the late 90s, early 2000s, and this has happened before then too, more than the 90s and 80s really, was the idea of remixing, right? And we first saw it with music, and then there was this thing called a DJ, where he's not a musician, he's just playing music that already exists. And nowadays we have e-games, right? So these people didn't create the game, right? So if you go watch like a Fortnite competition, these are just people using a tool that was already created and then blowing it up. So really, AI art and AI everything makes sense then, right? Because then we're all becoming DJs. We're all just remixing stuff now, right?
Yeah.
And there's still famous DJs. There's still famous professional gamers. So I guess in theory there'll be famous professional AI artists, I guess.
Yeah, that reminds me, I think it was a Taylor Swift concert where Taylor was basically on the stage and she was like talking to who was it? A security guard, and he's basically not singing the song, and she was like upset about it. She's like singing it, but it was fake. She stopped singing, and the lyrics,
You're telling me Taylor Swift doesn't actually sing her songs?
Yeah, but this is the thing, like, we are okay with fake performance as long as it's like, it serves our needs, So a little bit fakeness is apparently fine, but what is the, are you fine listening to a DJ's performance and he's actually not DJing it? And that's commonplace on big concerts. It's like they don't do anything; they act like, because like if
are you telling me Shaquille O'Neal is not an actual musician? You're telling me Paris Hilton isn't an actual musician? What?
but like, do you play this game now or you don't play this game? What is your take on that?
Yeah, well, it's a game that I think is going to be played no matter if we play it or not. I think we've talked about that. Like, you could be completely against AI, and it's kind of like the cell phone or the email, where eventually you'll probably be using AI even if you don't want to use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like that value though, right? Like, so I think we're having a hard time as society right now valuing it. I think, at least normal people. I don't know about the AI people out there and stuff like that. I'm sure that they can see the value, but like the normal person right now, I think there's that initial like, whoa, this is what's possible. But then after that, I think everyone's like, meh. And I think like in 10 years, like things like AI art and stuff are just gonna be like, meh, okay, cool. Like,
I think like also there's another aspect to it, because like we obviously are in our 30s, we're being a little bit younger.
I'm not obvious. I'm 24 right now.
Oh God, he heard me here. But basically, there's different audiences. There's like the kiddos, and then there's the teenagers, 20 years and whatever.
Yeah.
Then there's the younger adults, but there's a segment that has absolutely no idea. And they are basically prime targets. If you remember the TV channels where they do the Taylor shows, where call this number, buy this, we only have 20 pieces in stock. Like, actually, here, my lens stand.
Yeah, there's only 20 left in stock, guys. You should get them right now. Go to Etsy and put in lens stands. You'll find this guy. But anyway.
Yeah. With that being said, though, those old people, they are like basically worth a lot of money because they have no idea about anything, and that sounds like a little bit derogatory or like a little bit negative, but how hard is it for Granny, who basically has barely any eyesight, to figure out if the mouth is AI animated, and there's a little bit of imperfection? They can't see it. It's impossible.
Yeah, and and the scary thing is that grandma is actually in this case the art director, the hiring manager. There's so many people now that have to dig through so much AI stuff. Like so when
But they don't know.
when someone's looking at a new design portfolio of a kid, it could look absolutely amazing. It could just have all these world-class designs, but now you as the hiring manager needs to sit there and be like, did he actually do this? Did he actually? So the things like interviews and things like that are so important now, because I have to figure out if you actually made this stuff. I actually have to talk to you, because I'm not going to believe that you made all this cool stuff out of the get-go.
Yeah, so it is one of those things where I'm always preach, you kind of have to record you doing the art, or otherwise it's
100%. That's exactly what I was about to say. Process.
Record the process.
The messy drawings. If you're a videographer, you need to have some drawn up storyboards, and you need to have things that look like there was actually a process involved. And even behind the scenes is going to be such a big deal.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's going to be that proof that this was actually made. This was actually thought for. And also, one thing that AI is not good at now, it'll probably get better at, is that, here's a problem, here's the solution. AI isn't quite there yet where it's actually showing that work is happening. It's just popping out the solution. And the solution that I've found, at least, is never what it needs to be. It's always something that looks good or seems like it's going to work, but it's never the perfect solution. And so I think that's going to be a big thing too, is for you doing a video, it's going to be well, what was the problem that the client needed to solve, and how did you solve it with this video? Because I think that's the stuff that people are going to need to hear. So I'm already trying to do that with my clients of what's the why behind it,
Yeah, that goes really back to the big problem, who is your client, what is their problem, what problem do you solve, who's your ideal client, and how do you solve their problems? And it really goes back to write the perfect prompt. It's you can say, how do I do my taxes in ChatGPT free? You don't get an answer because it's too broad, and then you can put in 2 sentences. How do I do my taxes in Florida? Still not good enough, because the AI does not know if you're self-employed, an employee. Do you have kids? Are you married? All those things. As long as you give enough context, you can get all the answers. But not giving the context is the biggest problem with AI.
Well, yeah, and I think outside of AI, yet again, because what I'm talking about too is that you need to give context to me, right? Because I'm not going to be impressed anymore if it's just made by AI. Or I'm not even going to be impressed if you were really good at using AI, to be honest, unless the job is for you to just use AI. I mean, so for me, it's not only being good at the context with the AI, but the context of everything outside of that too. Why this project, And I think with that, it's you almost have to start with not AI. I mean, that's why I tell people that are picking up design or picking up development. I have a few people in my circle that are, in this kind of development phase of I want to get better. And they're seeing AI, and they kind of have asked me straight up, should I just be leaning heavily on AI, or should I be learning, and things like that? And I always tell them yeah, you definitely should be doing some learning outside of the AI. Don't get caught in the platform itself where you're only doing all of your learning just asking ChatGPT questions. There has to be time where you go out and find your own way too.
Yeah. I mean, with that being said, the whole AI thing is it is powerful, but it's we're going back to you need the context. When you bid for a job, you have better chances getting that job if you write the perfect offer. And if you have something where oh yeah, the owner, he probably likes football and he's a team of that fan of that team. And if I'm just hey, kind of slip that in, I might get the gig, and that is the cheat tools, the context. The more information you have, the easier you solve the problem and get what you want. But it's okay, how do you, get the information across without spamming stuff that is not relevant, but it is relevant? Because, everything is relevant, but you need to have the most important pieces of that person so that you get the correct result. And I agree with that. And I think it's also being imperfect is actually going to be a very important thing. I think people don't want robots. So if you start to sound like the AI yourself, that can be really bad too. Yeah. So I think making the jokes about something you did on the weekend or being imperfect, or just little things you could say that's I don't know, but I'll find out. And just things like that,
are going to be more valuable, I think, because I think if you come into like, let's say a job interview and you are just so robotic, you've just studied the script, you've just chat GPT'd it to death, and you're just like, oh, it's about quality and design, and you're just talking about all these big vague things. It's like no, get into the why, get into the dirty messiness, get into like, well, I fell in love with this when I was a kid with crayons on the floor as a kid and stuff. Like, get to that weird place, because that's what people want. They don't want this robot.
Yeah, there's also like a style to it. Like, I had actually a person coming to me when I was like filming on the beach, and we did like a little bit marine biologist, you know. That person was not a marine biologist, but ChatGPT 3 was giving the person a script and about like how to pick up trash and save the sea turtles. It was a little ad for something, but
Dang.
yeah. But in the end, you really could hear like, okay, everything is fake. It's for a good cause, but it's like the script was ChatGPT 3, and you really hear that like no person would talk like that. You know, when you hear buzzwords and stuff like that, it's just like talking in an unnatural way. And I'm just like, yeah, let's do it word by word, like what the script says, because like the person wants that. But let's also do like a personal version. How would you say it, you know?
Yeah, that's the one thing I have found with ChatGPT, at least, that it is difficult to get that casualness. So I've had it like, you know, write me this thing, and you know, it's full of all these like marketing type of words and stuff, and then I'll even write like, hey, can you make it more casual? And then it goes like way off into this other weird direction where it's like, yo, bro, how's it going? And it just gets like really weird. And so it's like that subtleness of like, I'm a human and I'm actually having a human conversation and I'm actually learning stuff. And hey, I don't know everything. I think that's the biggest thing I get scared of is now in the world of AI, even more so than ever, we're like, oh, well, I have to have all the answers, where it's like, no, say you don't know. That's okay to say, I don't know, I can find out, or, you know, let me write that down. I just feel like more and more there's going to be people like, well, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, just keep going. Yeah, I know that. Yeah. And they're just writing it down like, I'm just going to chat GPT that. I'm going to chat GPT that. And it's, you know, it's like people don't want that. Like, I don't want that. If I'm hiring you and you don't know, just tell me you don't know. Like, I know you can use chat GPT. I know you could Google it. Like, don't act like people don't know.
That is also like a thing. You should say that you can do that, because like there's people who don't use new tools, you know, and they are not really adapt. I have people calling me and asking me how to Google shit, and I'm like, you would be baffled like by the, you know, the things people cannot do, because they're also not willing to sit down and watch a YouTube video for 20-30 minutes to solve a problem, because it could be maybe an hour, 2 hours of YouTube videos to solve a problem, and you learn that skill. So those people are out there.
Well, yeah. So it's like, it's both. It's like you definitely have to be open to learning new things, but you just have to be honest. I mean, that's my biggest thing is like, just don't lie. Like, I just feel like I haven't ran into it a lot, but I know it's out there that there's already people that are just lying about it, especially in the development world. There's so much in the development world, so much in the coding world that like, you know, I'm always going into a new project and there's almost always one thing in the project that I've never done before. And I think it's about being honest about that. Like, you know, I've never done this thing. Like I told you a couple of podcasts back that, you know, there was a gig that I was kind of interviewing for that I was just honest. I was like, you know, I haven't done these 2 or 3 things. Now, of course, I told him, now I can always learn. I can always get into these things. These things aren't like super far and foreign to me.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think they appreciated that. They were really positive to be like, you know what, thank you for telling us that you don't feel comfortable doing that, because it's so frustrating when you have some guy that's like, oh yeah, I can do it. He chat GPTs it. He Googles it all night. There's no way you're going to have like 50 hours to get good at something. So you're going to smash it into 1 hour. And then the result's going to show that. It's going to show you haven't mastered it.
Yeah. With that being said, let's talk about Cyberpunk, because like that is one of those products where they released and hyped it up for years, you know. They released it, the vision was cool, it was like about a game that is like in the future and it's like dystopian and you can do everything, it's like GTA and it's a fun thing, and it came out and it was not what they promised. It was like how would you describe it? What it was?
Well, yeah. So I mean, so Cyberpunk came out, and it you know, I think the developers were overworked. It was overpromised, overhyped a little bit, and it came out and it was broken. It was glitchy. It was kind of a shell of a game.
Dumpster fire.
Yeah, and you know, and they you know, CD Projekt Red lost a lot of money. I mean, they lost millions of dollars through this launch, and you know, I think what's really cool is, so now they've relaunched it recently as a 2.0. 2.0. They literally call it Cyberpunk 2.0. They did it with this new DLC, and from what I've heard of people, it's absolutely amazing now. It's the game that they finally promised. And I think this is an interesting thing where, you launch something and it just blows up on the launch pad, but they stuck in it. They stuck in the pocket for the last year. They're still working on it. To think that there's this developer that like worked his butt off for years and years and years, launched it, and then just to hear all these reviews that it's garbage, instead of that guy giving up, he was like, you know what? I'm gonna grind it out for the next year. And now it's like it's amazing. It's almost like people have already forgotten that the launch was bad. So it's really this cool. I always talk about changelog with like websites, right? Like when you launch it, it's not like that has to be the final thing. Like just get something out is usually good. But like stick in the pocket, just get it better. Even if people are like, the first one sucks, dude. Keep working at it. Just keep getting it better. So I don't know. I love this example of like, just stay in the pocket, man. When something doesn't work, you don't need to just throw it all in the trash. Like just stay in the pocket, keep getting it better and better. And now it's like, nobody even remembers that Cyberpunk launched badly, really. It's like now they just think, oh, it's a great game now.
Yeah, and it doesn't really matter if it was bad, because like in the end, if you grind it out, and it is a good experience, when you play a good game, it's fun, And I feel like, let's say videography, for example, there's like, it's hard to make money, for let's say you're a beginner and you learn your camera, you go from hobby to being like, okay, I want to do this more now full time or part time or whatever it is, You maybe get a gig and then you get a second gig and they're not really like the same. But the longer you stick in a niche, the more ways you find how to make money with it. And the problem usually is people getting disappointed with the niche, like let's say fire performers, usually broke, and there's not a lot of money to be made with them, but everybody assumes because they come from the outside, they see them performing, see other people filming them, and they're like, oh, there must be money in it, and there's no money in it. And then you try it yourself and you get disappointed, but the longer you stick in it, the more opportunities you find. And I feel like this is the same with everything. So you gotta stick and grind it out and being like, oh yeah, actually you can make a YouTube video and reviews, tutorials, classes, courses, and photo shoots, sponsored products, and then in the beginning you don't know that.
Yeah, and I think people have heard this before, but I'm glad that when I was young, my parents definitely instilled in me of like, do what you love and the money will come. And I think like people have to remember that. Like if you're doing what you love, just keep doing it. The money will come, the success will come. But I think a lot of us right now, especially in times where the financial world is, with inflation and stuff, a lot of us in our world are having a really hard time. And so I think a lot of us are very money centered right now, where like we use money as like this way that if it's going well or not, right? If I'm not making money, then this thing's a failure. And I think that's the wrong way to think about it. Yeah. Right. You have to, it's all about following the energy. It's about following like, what is the thing that you love about this? And so, there's one guy like a couple of years ago where he was going to learn development, and I was really trying to help him. And there was at one point I just kind of told him like, I don't know if this is for you, man. And it's because I could just tell he didn't like it. He literally was already getting overstressed, didn't like it, already felt like it was a burden. And I kind of had to stop him and be like, it's going to get worse than this, man. Like these are hypothetical projects with like unlimited deadlines. Like get in the real world where you got like 6 projects, they're yelling at you, they're changing it. You gotta kind of love it. Like, and if you don't love it, which, I've found and stuff in myself, if I don't love the thing I'm doing, the money never does come because you never put in the effort and you never really have that passion because you don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Freelance is like such a treat because like the feast or famine, and there's good times and bad times, and there's always something to improve. And we kind of talked about like beforehand, because like you were back in town, and I'm like, okay, when you work the thing, you maybe miss what you're missing, and other people, for example, what I'm missing, on my website is a landing page, the ideal client, a funnel, and all that stuff, because, we all get our clients and work in weird ways, and everybody has like a thing that kind of works for them and kind of doesn't work, and everything can be optimized. And it's like really hard to take a step back and be like, hey, I actually need to do X, Y, and Z because I missed the basics,
Yeah, one thing that I kind of told you off camera that I've ran into is I haven't updated my business plan since I've started my business. And I think that's very common, right? The year you LLC, you do all this stuff, you do a business plan, maybe you don't. But like I haven't looked at it since then. And I went and I finally looked at this business plan of mine, and I'm like, this doesn't even really match my stuff now. It's full of a lot of buzzwords. And so it's like the plan of it. Like I think that's the biggest thing. Like for you to like zoom out and be like, I need a landing page. I need a sales funnel. Like, where do I even send people, right? I can send them a cold email, but then I'm just doing a lot of typing. Like, I need to send them somewhere. I need to have something do the talking for me. And you don't see that sometimes, especially when you're doing it for other people. There's so many times where my clients, I'm building all these multi-level marketing campaigns, and then like I'm not marketing at all. And
yeah, it is kind of baffling if you think about it. It's just like, yeah, they do that, I should do that too, and then but I'm busy. I'm busy doing the work. And then you do the work, and then you wonder why there's not more money coming in, because it's like one of those skills where it's like, yeah, you always have to keep evolving, always have to adapt a new thing, and it's just like the freelance world,
Well,
being a business.
And it's like make yourself the client. I've got to start doing that again for myself. Is like, if you can't give yourself that time, then you've got to make yourself the client. You're on the client list now, so. So that's something I've started to do for myself is, Sean Craig Creative is a client for Sean Craig Creative that I need to schedule at least an hour every week and act like I'm client and I'm Sean and be like, well, okay, well, what is the problem here? And because a lot of the times, a lot of great designers will understand that, the client will come in and be like, I need a landing page. But do you? Like, let's talk about this. Does the landing page always serve you? Because it doesn't always. There's no always fits for every single thing, right? So a lot of that you have to do for yourself too. Like, where you have to be like, what do I need? What is the problem here? And even doing the touch points of like, what is my audience? What's the touch points they go through right now? All the way from like first thing to quoting to estimating to invoicing, all these different touch points, and where do I lose them, right? So for me, I've like started to realize that I lose a lot of my clients when we get too either too quickly into the money or we take too long to get into the money. And so I've kind of realized that that's a weird pinch point. So what I've done is I've kind of, created the price list. So it's already made, it's already in concrete. There's no Sean like doing this. There's already kind of, and I don't show this to the clients. This is all behind the scenes, but it's something for me. And then also, we've talked about a lot of times, checklists. I have a checklist even for, the onboarding process. There's all these checklists, right? So if you're a new branding client, I have to do the initial email. We have to do all the estimates and stuff like that. But then, already knowing what's the kickoff meeting look like, knowing what's the questions I need to ask them, because I think that's half of it too, is at the beginning of the process, if it's not very concrete, you lose control really quickly later in the process. So that's what I've started to do for myself, is like create this order behind the scenes.
Yeah, what I learned from my clients is basically like, some of them do things well, some of them don't, and, it's just like you see what other people do and you still have to do it yourself. So it's like, okay, but at least trial and dabble in it, because like you said, some people maybe don't need a landing page, and you're probably right. But it's like, at least I should try, and I'm like, okay, this is now my season where I'm like, I experiment with landing pages, click funnels, and like, sending people a certain way and then trying to optimize it, because like, yeah, there's basics in business, and there's basics that are not really needed depending on what business you are in, So it's like, it's always tough to say, what do you need? What should you do? And
yeah, and it is. It's hard. That's why it's like that kind of, and also just hiring other creatives in your world. I think once you have some money, to not be scared to get other professionals in the room to look at your stuff, right?
Yeah.
Even something I someday want to be able to afford and get is a good business coach, because I think we when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a freelancer, you just assume you're probably okay at business, but you're probably bad at business. You didn't go to business school. You didn't do all these programs. You didn't do a boot camp of how to be a startup. So you don't know a lot of these things. Like there's so much I could learn from a business coach that where they're out of the creative world. They would just come in and be like, no, your decision making's all wrong. The whole beginning of the process is wrong. The entire thing is probably all wrong from the very beginning. And you're going down here thinking of a landing page, or Sean's thinking about a logo, or where it's like, no, you need to go way back. We need to go way to the beginning. What is the product? And I feel like having these outside perspectives, that's kind of my favorite thing, is when someone's like, no. Yeah. It just closes your book and gives you another book and like, this is the book you should be looking at.
Yeah.
Like,
now you have to read it. Now you have to actually do the thing. What is like the hard part? Because like some people, they don't want to do that. They're just like, no, it kind of works like this already, and they're stubborn. And stubbornness is kind of bad.
Yeah. Well, it's the student, right? It's you got to get to that lifelong student place. I've run into this too, where I've had to get over my own ego, right? When like that, I have to be okay with a young designer saying like, no, man, that's not how you should do it. Yeah. I think a lot of us, when we do something for a while, we're so resistant to that. We're like, no, man, I've done this a million times. Or you got to be open to be like, you know what? You may be right. Maybe I am doing it wrong. Maybe I could just throw that in the garbage and do this new thing.
It reminds me of like a post that I saw from a friend. He has a big company. He's like making like one client is like 50K, and I'm just like, dang, but he's like big level, and he's all about that cinematic grading. Everything has to be a movie, and all his ads are super cinematic, and then a marketer told him like, hey, I don't want those colors, and he's just like, live it. He's just like, imagine somebody from a marketing trying to tell you something about colors, and it's, yeah, if they have a color style and a theme, like, and you want it dark and moody, but the product is not dark and moody, you got to swallow that, and you should not take pride in certain things. But maybe it's not the right client. But I'm just saying.
Well, and 100%. That's what I was about to say. Is that's their failure then on the onboarding, that they should have already. You should have already gotten there. If you're already in the process and they're doing that, then you should. It's kind of on you. You should have already figured that out at the beginning, that they didn't want your style, because they came to you because you have this style. So it's like that's a weird thing when later they're not okay with the thing they fell in love with. So it's,
With that being said, though, you could, if you. Are you a business or are you the artist? And that's going back then. Can you swallow it and like, can I make actually my style in a bright style when you usually do dark? Can you do that, or you even want to try? What are the?
Well, yeah, and it goes back to like the business plan and the mission statement. Is your mission to create moody movies, or is your mission to solve clients' problems? And that's the big thing there. In that case, the client wanted you to solve their problem, but no, your mission was to make a moody cinematic thing. And it's like, so you have to be very big about that. Like I've designed stuff for woman agencies, for cowboys. I've designed stuff for the military. I've designed stuff for children. I've designed, I'm very malleable. Like, right? Like, it's not like Sean just does, I only do really cool cutting edge cast shadow stuff. It's like, no, I'm just here to be the solution for you. I'm just a tool in a way that, like, you need a creative tool. I'm that creative tool.
Yeah, and I think that's powerful, like being like mentally flexible. That's where I pride myself with. I don't take pride in stuff, and I know I'm wrong with stuff, and I'm like, okay, I need to adapt, and I need to learn, I need to change, and hopefully after you adapt that one thing, everything blows up, because like you never know how close you are to succeeding or winning the lottery. If you didn't play that one ticket, it could have. I heard like a really funny story about a guy with his mother or something was like playing the lottery every day, the same numbers, not every day, but every week or whatever. And she's, I think, from Australia or something. And the one time she didn't play, the numbers won. And everybody called her like, oh, you won the lottery, because everybody knew she had those numbers. And it's like so sad. And I'm just like, damn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and it's a good example of like, you have to definitely. Yeah, you have to find like that greater purpose, I guess, is what we're getting to in this, is that you have to find that kind of that the greater thing, and then everything else past that greater purpose, you need to just let erode away and come and go. You have to be open to things. So for me, I try to get into new projects with a very open mind. One of the projects I recently started, it's a whole workflow that I've never even done. Yeah. And I think I was just open to it. It's like, what? There's probably a reason they do it this way. I don't like to do it this way, but instead of fighting it, I'm just going to try to figure it out with them, and I think having that kind of malleableness is really important, especially right now with people moving so quickly and stuff. To get stuck on anything is a wrong way to do business, I think.
Yeah, it's powerful to learn and be flexible. But with that being said, how is the art going? You're back in town. You do the meetups again, because like the girlfriend is very connected, and you're doing the thing. So what's going on in Sean's world?
Well, yeah. So, so I'm back in Florida, kind of doing a bigger move down here now. Going to be here more consistently. I think that's the thing I've kind of found, is it was hard to be in both places, where I wasn't really developing my network in either place that much. So now being here more, hopefully I'm getting more of that consistent network, and the painting is going really well. For anyone out there, Polychromic, so POLYCHROMIC art. If you go there, follow me on Instagram. I'm starting to kind of build some following. Getting into some galleries down here. I'm getting into my first big painting, so that's really exciting. Ooh. Where it's going to be like a 3 foot by 2 foot canvas. So yeah, fun stuff. For me, I'm in this weird place right now where I'm kind of changing a little bit of the things I focus on. Right, I'm starting to see that the world's changing, and that the way that Sean did business back in 2019 is just not going to work nowadays. And so right now I've been kind of focusing on more like, how do I make things actionable and how do I do experiments for cheap right now? Yeah. So I'm in that experimental phase. Like I want to try things, but how do I try them for cheap with like little problem, right? And so so it's been kind of fun though. It's interesting because when these times happen, if you can embrace it, it can be really exciting. It makes me feel like it's college again or something, where I'm just like, I'm setting up photos for my paintings and I'm learning new types of code. And, so I'm trying to be positive. I think when you get to this negative place where you're not getting clients, you're not getting work, it doesn't serve you. So even in those cases, when stuff's not coming in, you just have to be like, cool, well, this is the time where I grow then. This is a growing phase. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm in my growing phase right now.
Ooh, I love that. And with this being said, like, you should actually come down here, draw here, and we're doing a live stream of Sean making some art with multiple cameras, and Fitzy makes like a cinematic art piece, in the video aspect form, and promoting the Sean a little bit. Like, I'm excited for this. It's cool that you're back down here.
Yeah, man, it'll be good. Yeah. I think more stuff like that. Having this kind of group of creativity is always good. I love having a creative network. That's something that I feel like I've missed out on now for a little while.
Yeah.
I've kind of lost a lot of that network in Colorado. So yeah, hopefully getting back down here, getting more people just to be in the network will be really fun.
Yeah. But with that being said, like, I'm like thankful that we all have another podcast in the books, and thanks for listening to the Infinite Creative Podcast. So what are your last final thoughts? Or words?
Well, my last words that I would say, I actually listen to this meditation app every day, and I liked something that it said the other day where it said, when you have these moments of doubt and sadness and anger, to try to think about where does that come from, and then try to think of what the inverse of that is. So for all of you guys out there, if you feel defeated, you feel like you're not getting the clients, really sit in that thought and then try to find the exact opposite of that thought. And that's the goal, right? You've now just found your goal. So if
you basically hate your clients.
So if you hate all your clients, let's say all your clients, they don't appreciate the work you're doing work that you don't like, sit in that, really feel like where that's coming from in your soul, and then be like, well, what is the opposite of that? Well, it's work that makes me fulfilled. It's clients that do appreciate me. Well, there's your goal. That's the thing you're aiming for.
I got you. That makes kind of sense, doesn't it? Yeah. With that being said, go on to Etsy, buy all my land stands, because we're going to list some really cool copper ones and all sorts of shenanigans.
Yeah. Go to Fitze on Instagram or go to his website. He's a great videographer. So, definitely if you're in the Florida area, he's doing lots of stuff all over town. And, for me, Sean Craig Creative, or you can go to Polychromic Art. Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm going to be launching a website in the next month for that, getting prints made and everything. So for the holiday season, we'll premiere those on the show coming up. But yeah, other than that, thanks everyone for watching.